Hello everyone, and welcome to the Deep Blue Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deep Blue Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 318. Today is Sunday, May 24th, 2020, and I'm glad you could join me today. I am recording a little bit, or whatever, I'm recording a day late from what my current schedule has been, and part of that just has to do with I wanted to finish something, and I had to accept the fact that it wasn't getting done before the podcast today. And then also, as I sort of get used to how the light works in this room, sort of that, like 1 to 5 p.m. range is actually pretty good light in here. But then it gets a little bit sketchy after that. So I got everything set up in here, and so I've been doing all like my virtual midnights from this chair, and going from there. It was a little bit funny though. The internet suddenly went out on Friday, so a technician came out to help figure out what was going on, and apparently the coaxial cable that was feeding the internet for our house got sliced at some point. And it was not buried, so it was on the ground. And I guess our feeling that the internet changed with the wind was in fact correct, because it was almost entirely sliced, so as it was sort of like moving as it was lightly draped on the ground, that did really change how good of internet we had, so oh well. As such, we have a new run of coaxial cable, and someone will be by to bury it, and life will be good, but that internet is like 5 times better. Like, it honestly looked like the poor thing had been cut, and I'm not even, like, it seemed like the center conductor wasn't even, so the insulation had been cut. With coaxial cable, you also have like a filler material, and it seemed like the center conductor was also screwed up too, so it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work very well that way, and that was our experience, so we're glad that that's going to be better. What would it be? So them and I had to not do like the Saturday morning stitching group Zoom call, or yeah, I think that one was Zoom, just because like it was like, yeah, no, I don't want to use data to do this. Oh well. I let my friend know what was going on, and she was like, that seems to happen to a lot of people. It's okay. So it's a little late for coffee, but I had a pretty late start today, so whatever. Such is life. So it's after the 22nd of May, and that means that Stash Dash has begun, and this is all very exciting because I've been loosely holding back on finishing things since, I don't know, sometime like mid-April-ish. And so spinning, knitting, pulling out projects I want to be reworked, and all of that fun stuff. And I think because of like the global situation right now with the worldwide pandemic, like Laura's pretty laissez-faire about the rules this year. So like, what would it be? In years past there were like prizes and things you would get if you were a finisher. At this point it's really much so a personal thing, which is fine. Oh, definitely left a decent chunk of my spinning hanging out by the window. I knew I missed something. Like, I have quite the pile of stuff over here. So my drum carder came in a big box because it's a big machine, and it is a super nice box. So I've actually been keeping it under my knitting table and then moving it back and forth as needed for various podcast purposes. So there is quite a lot of junk on top of my box, which is just barely out of frame. My spinning wheel, I needed to do quite a bit of adjustment to get it out of frame, but whatever. And I would say maybe the big thing that sort of got me was realizing, I had an unfinished project since 2019 for spinning, because I had created the project, I think, initially to count for, what would it be, some samples I did with a class with Judith Mackenzie, and I had all of the other fibers she had handed out in class that I hadn't dealt with yet. And then there's an awful lot of like small samples of fiber, and like they're not in the stash. They're pretty small amounts, so I'm just trying to think of ways to be like, hey, no, this isn't going to be a project, but maybe I can combine it with something else and it can be a worthy amount of stuff. So that's sort of where I'm at right now, and practice some of the things that I've learned in class. So I don't know, I've been highly inspired by most of the things that she's taught me, so it's not too crazy. And I'd really wanted to finish applying something. I really wanted, like, for my Stash Dash Palooza weekend, to just, like, rush through a whole bunch of yardage, at least for that beginning, because everything else is going to be, I think, a little bit harder fought. But whatever. It wasn't to be. So we'll start with this. So this is my first finish. This is the 1898 hat, which is a Kristen Brins pattern. It's free on Ravelry, and it's super cute. I did a little bit of a modification because it did not appear that it was going to fit the Dear Sweet Lovable One's head properly. With the links that she gave in the pattern. I don't like, this is something where row gauge does matter, because you're knitting this, your flat band flat in garter, folding it on itself, picking up stitches all the way around, and then knitting up the hat from there. And I did this mostly while watching Rogue One at the beginning of May. And then left the tippy top of it for the end. So what I did was, in order to get the right weight of yarn, I held 2 strands of black cashmere, which is fiber optic yarns in the Morticia colorway, and 1 strand of the red, which is holly berries. And I bought this red originally to knit the mitts, but the Dear Sweet Level One wanted blue mitts, not red mitts. So knit this band. Had to adjust as I went, because it just didn't look like it was going to fit right. And he's not a big fan of super constricting hats. Like, he wants a net hat. He doesn't want, like, he's probably okay with positive ease in a hat, even though that makes it worthless, but he definitely doesn't like negative ease. So, not too crazy. Then, when I got to the brim, I switched to having 2 strands red, 1 strand black. Cool. And then it turned out pretty cool. So, alright. So I have a seam on the back side, and it is a little bit directional. Apparently your front of your head goes differently. I don't know, whatever. So he's pretty happy with it. It's a toasty hat. It's the cashmere base is 80-10-10 merino cashmere silk. So it's pretty nice. And I still have quite a lot of leftovers at the end of this. So let's see. Sorry. I'm gonna hop over to my official Stash Dash thread. Okay, because I do need to update it. So This ended up, because the yarn was held tripled, I ended up getting 558.9 meters for stash dash on this one. So not too crazy. Quite a lot of yards in that just because I was holding it tripled. Divide that by 3 and that would probably be what you would have if you knit it out of worsted weight. But overall pretty happy. Seems like a pretty good finished object. He's been wearing his acrylic stripy double thickness hat because he sort of destroyed the wool one. I didn't respond to his text fast enough. Oh well, such is life. When so much of the wool you work with is superwash, it is, I suppose, surprising when it's not. And the other thing, that was like the most ungraceful end weaving I've ever done. But it's on the downside, so we're just gonna go with it. It's almost too warm today to wear this. But I did end up reworking my Delancey cardigan. So this is an Alexis Winslow design that I knit probably 2016, I believe. And like I was, the variegated multicolor yarn is Nest. It was a combo spin that I ended up doing with 8 ounces, and it turned out I got DK weight instead of fingering. This here is Woolmisa DK that I overdyed because I accidentally bought brown. And this white is Shetland that I got when I bought my combs. So it was scoured Shetland that I then used as practice for combing. Pretty cool. And previously, my sleeves went to here, and then this band of color was actually the garter cuff. And what I noticed was that I gravitated to this sweater because it's super nice when you're feeling a little chilly to put on a cuddly cardigan. And then I put it on, and then my forearms would be cold because the sleeves were too short. But I had used like almost every possible scrap of the yarn already. So what I ended up doing was like, hey, I'd been thinking that maybe I wanted to rework the sweater because I wasn't gravitating to it in Dallas because there just aren't as many cold days in Dallas where you feel like you need to get snuggled up in a sweater. So I was debating with various Zoom knitting groups and came to the conclusion, yes, maybe I should rework the sweater. So, and then I'd also noticed this is like a common thing where like when I do those shorter sleeves, I don't decrease enough. And so I ripped back to here, and you can sort of maybe see how it's a little bit of a wobbly texture. Looked at my Ravelry project notes, didn't believe them, knit for a bit, then realized, oh no, that was correct. Switched needle sizes, and then went from there. So this one was my experiment sleeve, so I just made stuff up until things ended up working. I ran a little bit short of my original cuff yarn, so I just sort of put in a stripe of what remainders I had, and I had the same thing happen on this one. So you have a little bright blip of green in there, but it's pretty subtle. It looks not too bad. And then I knit pretty long cuffs just because I didn't really want to figure out more than that. And then I went through and did a search and destroy on all of my ends that were sticking out from the Woolmisa DK. So this is the commercial yarn is like it's a merino. It's pretty slippery. All of the little ends had worked their way out and it was driving me a little nuts. But it's such a cute sweater. So And I guess I can button this up. I got the Dear Sweet Level 1 took really nice photos of me. I gave him specific instructions about what my artistic vision was. So now the cardigan is fixed. It has this super nice shawl collar, these really cute button bands. I didn't have to scavenge yarn from the button bands. I didn't really want to knit those over again. But now it's going to be a way more wearable sweater. And I was really happy with the pictures. I think it did a little bit. I don't know. I had my power pose. I like my power pose. Can't stop. So that was 1,100.8 meters for Stash Dash there, which is cool. I'm excited about that. So have a pretty good start to the Stash Dash from whatever these 2.5 days I've been working on it. Not too crazy, so super glad I refinished that sweater. It's gonna be so much more wearable now, because honestly I don't, or would it be? Like, it definitely has like a definite snuggle factor. And now I know why it's like my Nest Fiber pills for sure on it, and DK weight yarn knit on US 8 needles. Like, I can understand now why that happened. Like the Woolmeister DK is probably okay knit at that gauge. My handspun probably needed to be at a firmer gauge, but whatever. I guess this is sort of that philosophical argument for, do you want your finer weight sweaters to knit up really fast, or do you want them to be sturdy? And that one probably went towards the fast end of that calculation, but whatever, such is life. So that means that I have 1,659.7 meters for Stash Dash so far, so not too crazy. And I'm not even done with like the stuff I've saved up for it. So not too crazy. So I ended up pulling this one out as a possibility. So like the sweater, like how it fits, like how it wears, but I did the short rows wrong, and I just need to accept the fact that like, can you see that line? This line? So I needed to do my short rows differently on this sweater. So I was wondering about washing it to see if it blocked out, but to be quite frank, it's how I ended up going over my short rows instead of doing one less stitch each time as I was working them. So I'm gonna have to figure out the appropriate way of getting that one apart, as you do, but because it is mohair, so that's why I didn't wash it. So like I don't want to find out anymore. I just need to mark how far I ended up going with my short rows, and then going back to that point and then doing them in a fewer stitches for every one till the end, and then tacking my ribbing onto there. And I'm trying to think if there's a way of removing my ribbing without ripping it out and reattaching it, but that might not be worth the pain. It might just be easier to reknit. So we'll see. I'm not going to get to that right away, because I'd rather get some more progress done on my other projects. And then the third sweater that I had pulled out for modifications would actually just be a straight up rip out. So I don't know what I was thinking with the kangaroo pocket, but I think differently now. So, and it's such gorgeous yarn, but it seems a waste. That's Neighborhood Fiber Company that I'd had custom dyed to be like a fractal. And so, what would it be? Worsted weight should knit up fairly quickly and life will continue on. But that would effectively be like a whole brand new project, so we shall see. That would be one where I would definitely be washing the yarn before proceeding, as you do. And then what I have sort of arrayed behind me are all of the socks that I need to fix. These may not actually count for stash dash, but it just seems a shame that what would it be? The socks are not in circulation right now. So it seems like only one sock per pair needs some love, but what would it be? There's a decent amount of work in here in order to figure out how to repair everything, but it's just like, so that is going to be a thing, and there are quite a lot of socks that just need a little bit of love. So these are like all my handspun socks are out of circulation at the moment, and that's like super sad. So this one needs it. This is another pair of handspun. This guy needs some loving too. And now that I have my stash back again, I can actually grab the leftovers from these projects to use it to fix it. This one's just like, oh my gosh, like, like this one's gorgeous, sad. This one has like a cut stitch somewhere. I can see it. So, like every single one of them just has like a little something wrong with it. And this one is actually the same green yarn as this one now, so no excuses. And then this guy, these ones have not worn super duper great, but well, such is life. So, I don't know, and if it's a case where it keeps happening over and over again, like at some point you have to call it. And then there is somewhere in here like a sad spot, though these are probably like the saddest socks in my collection at this point, just because the white yarn was not of value. The blue yarn has like, I don't know, these just look like, it's usually white, it's like gray. So I was debating whether or not I wanted to toss them, but not quite. I'll repair it at least once before I decide it's over. I'm not even entirely sure where it went weird. Like, it was so pretty when it was new, but it is not as nice anymore, is it? But socks are socks. Repairing the socks takes way less time than knitting them anew. So none of them are probably going to really count for stash dash. Maybe that green pair with the cuff, because I may need to rip it out and just reknit up. Because I'm not quite sure how to handle that level of destruction. But I do, because they're pretty. And then there were some socks after some thought and review that I realized were just dead. So these ones weren't worth contemplating repair. They are gone. But so maybe that green pair will count, but not the other ones more than likely. So such is life. And then this one is in a slightly awkward spot, so I will knit upon it while I talk about it. So it's not like it's too long. So this is the Sizzle Pop Shawl, which is a Leslie Ann Robinson pattern that I'm knitting out of Mozzarella Yarns Excellent Lace in the You're Never Gonna Keep Me Down, which is the variegated you see now, and You Can Never Have Enough Socks, which is the purple on this side. And for whatever reason, I can't quite hold the purple side up in a way that makes the pattern clear, but you can super clearly see the pattern on this side. So last I weighed, I've used about a quarter of the yarn I have. So they're 100 gram skeins. One of them is at 80 and one of them is at 75. So even though this is pretty sizable at this point, would it be? It's possible that it'll actually be a good size at like the 50% mark or something like that. But at least for now, the plan of record is to knit as much of the yarn as possible, as you do. But it is like fairly fine for a lace weight, so who knows. It definitely has good texture and good squish. It is enjoyable to knit the brioche lace, for sure. And this is primarily getting love during whatever conference calls at work. So helps me focus, keeps things simple, and various other things as well. But I would say I've been like so focused on spinning as of late, as you do. So I had started a row of this because I was providing company while checking out our cars and making sure everything was in good working order, and then didn't end up finishing it, or didn't end up finishing the row. So I think I'm almost done with another like half repeat from last time. Like, yeah. So not oodles and oodles of progress on this bad boy. But whatever, such is life. Let's see. So, like, it's probably, I don't even know. If I am, there, I was grabbing my calculator. Yeah, I know. So I'm already 465 yards into this project. Oh yeah. So this one will, like, that's why it feels like okay, not too crazy. So like what would it be? But the brioche is maybe slightly deceptive because a lot of this yarn is sort of like in the thickness instead of in the length, if that makes sense. So it's definitely like a thick substantial sort of shawl. Not, would it be sort of a thing that you can like pull through something fine, if you know what I mean. So let's see, what other exciting things can I talk about this? It's not too crazy exciting. I have it in my mysterious Happy Paisley bird project bag that I am working, well, that I ended up using as an inspiration for a cowl design in a Tanis Gray cowl class I took at SSK last year. That I still haven't sat down and finished my thoughts on that one. But that would be a lot of fun, as you do. Let's see. Anything else I want to say? It really isn't too crazy. So, but I do want to finish this row. Let's see. But the rows are getting longer, so that is the danger of this project. I haven't like sat down and figured out, based on yarn usage, what was going on here, or how many more repeats I have to go, or that sort of thing. It sounds like a lot. And maybe based on my progress so far, because I, like, as soon as I could get to the yarn, I found it and wound it. So this has received fairly significant knitting attention. Maybe not as much this week, but maybe it is not possible in 3 months to finish the shawl, so, which is interesting. And I suppose with my other, like, I'll have to explain the mild woe that I have with the other project. Foreshadowing. So, let me unfurl this. So, not too crazy. It's definitely looking more like a proper shawl. Almost, I don't know, it's getting closer to being wingspan, but not quite. Like, its tails are getting longer, but not quite long enough yet for that treatment. But hopeful. So not too crazy there. And I guess I did get a decent amount. So here is my little marker here. So I've managed to do about a pattern repeat. I am, after I do my knit back row with the purple, I will be on to the annoying row. It's the more complicated one that has the 5-stitch brioche decrease in it, so I've almost done half a repeat on this guy. So moving along slowly but surely. So I'll just dump that in there, and I'll have one easy row to work on before I move on to the annoying one. Whatever. Let's talk a little woe. Just a little. Not a horrifying amount of woe. So this is my Mesa sweater wrap. It is a Romy Hill pattern that I am knitting out of my handspun from Geneva Fleece. So this is yarn that, or whatever, fiber that I dyed, combed by hand, spun into this crazy 9 skein 3-ply gradient. And you can sort of see the stripiness to it. Just like barely see the stripiness. So little light woe in here. So at this point, I switched to the blue. I brought in my 3rd skein of yarn, and then I decided to carefully reread the pattern, and then realized I had switched things in a little bit too early. So I needed to do a couple of rows of color 2 by itself before transitioning into alternating 2 and 3. And then I concluded that I needed to modify it a little bit because my skeins are smaller than her skeins. Like, she's written the pattern in a way where it makes sense if you have 4. It's a little bit more complicated when you have whatever, smaller size skeins. So easy to fix, easy to do, but I'm gonna have to move it back a little bit. So I have 3 little garter ridges of my straight up blue that aren't supposed to be there. Not quite. So it's just like a little bit of a transition, but I think it'll actually be really good because it seemed pretty stark to my eye, which you cannot see, the transition. So I need to just work it by itself for just a smidge. Half as much smidge as she recommends. And I still need to message her and ask her about the ramifications of a choice I'm contemplating. So I should just get over myself and do that. So, not too crazy. This is entirely due to the fact that I did not pull up the pattern when I ground things. I figured I needed to read the pattern again when I got to sleeve increases, which were not going to be for a while, but that color transition bit was important and I missed. So it's not Romy's fault, it's my fault. And it was super exciting because I posted in the SSK for I won a pattern. So Laura ended up gifting me a copy of Rolling Rocks, so exciting. Not quite part of my immediate sweater plans, but whatever. This probably increases the count of how many sweater patterns ooh, you can see the danger of the sunshine coming. It's like ghostly white. Yeah, so I have an awful lot of sweater patterns right now, and even yarn to knit them with, and the process is not fast. So I thought I was going to be a little bit further along in the sweater, but alas, not so much. So let's talk some spinning. We're out of knitting. It's lots of spinning now. And actually I'm gonna hop over and grab so I don't know whether I should have put all of this stuff in the box, but I did, so we're gonna live with it. And this bobbin right here just really what would it be? Like, it'll probably be Mondo yardage, because it just took me forever to get through it. This is 45 grams of like an Angora blend. There's other stuff in here. It's spun up. The singles look really pretty. It's very soft, and it spun like top, but the little chunkies in it, which you can sort of see its texture. Slowly back up, maybe, whatever. So you can definitely see little chunkies in there. But it just took forever. It was 45 grams. But I started spinning it Thursday, and then kept spinning it Friday, and then finally finished the singles on Saturday, which for 45 grams of fried, that's like an ounce and a half. What's going on? Whatever. So I'm going to be applying this with a lot of the other stuff. But this just messed up my triumphant try all the things stash plan. So I will be starting with playing it with this black llama. So this is llama, a sample of llama from Judith Mackenzie's down spinning class. I've already done the yak, and then I have 2 more samples to go somewhere. Yes. And now it's sort of been long enough. I don't know if this is white fiber or if it's actually Angora. And this is merino yak silk. I don't know. I think it might be Angora. It counts as a down. There's even a little tuft of kiviot on it. Kiviot. My kiviot from that class has already been spun, so that's good. Now, because it's not the this feels super I think it's Angora. Whatever. So I'm gonna spin, and these are both about 3-gram things, so it should make actually some pretty cool looking yarn, and maybe any extras I have will just ply back on itself, because this isn't gonna add up to a lot of fiber in the end. But these were just small samples on a Ravelry project that has been open for way too long for me. I just need to finish it, and it'll be fine. As you do. And then I have my 85-15 pulver self singles in their coordinating anchor verb bobbins. It's accidentally on purpose. I've had these bobbins for quite some time, but it brings me joy. And this is going to be what's going next on my wheel, so that I have bobbins freed up, so that I can you're not going along for the ride, so that I can 2-ply these onto themselves. So this is the blue, the teal, and the purple alpaca Starbright mix that I turned into bats and then spun singles for. So this is going to be super lovely. And then the last thing is something that I'm gonna have to scour. So this was a little itty bitty sample of Classy Squid fiber that I then spun on my Finch. And what was it? I'm torn, because on one hand there was really a gorgeous amount of that perfect amount of add-ins where you could just see all of these bright beautiful colors of the silk come through, and totally unscoured fleece. So on one hand the blend is gorgeous, on the other hand you shouldn't put fleece in the grease in a drum carter. So So I'm gonna have to scour this poor little sample. And maybe I'll end up applying it with the never-ending supply of Angora and call it good. Who knows? At least then it will add up to a little bit more. So I think this was an Angora Corriedale Silk and Sparkle blend. Super impressed with that right amount of add-in, unimpressed with its rawness. Like, I pulled it out of the bag and it was just tacky. So, I don't know. I'm not a fan of spinning in the grease. So I was surprised when I pulled it out of this little bag. I was like, I don't know where I got this sample from. I don't know if it was, I bet it was SSK. So, I'm a little bit torn about that. Maybe it might be a good question to ask the maker of like, hey, is this normal? Who knows? So, but this was like another thing that I ended up working on to sort of work through all of my small bits and bobs. And I pulled out a couple more things that I will work on once I clear my bobbins a little bit better. Because every bobbin has stuff on it at the moment, which is exciting. So what I ended up pulling out is, oh my gosh, all of this stuff too. So these are all, what would it be? I suspect these two are Yarn School. Possibly. And then these were like samples that I got at Yarn School. So I have this Strumpet Craft bat, which may end up getting applied with the Angora that never ends. A Shetland bat sample, which should be a lot of fun. Okay. Alpaca Angora silk mohair. I don't know. That's this one right here. I can believe that. And then I have this guy here, which is a little Yarn School dropout leftover fiber. So feels like a pretty soft fine wool, like Finn or Merino or Falkland or something like that. Seems reminiscent of that. So these are all different things where it's like, it's not even in the Ravelry stash. It's been with me for quite some time, and it's probably time to use it. And I may end up applying these two together, because I think that will end up being fun. There's all sorts of fun, interesting stuff in here. Like, this one feels like a pretty sizable little bat, so I'll have to weigh it and see. But like, these two combined probably would make enough for a proper sort of project. I just want to open up this guy and see if there's more details on what's going on. Haha! So, this one is Frosted Berry. It is Merino, Silk Lap, Tencel, and Angelina. So, I don't know. Could be fun combined with this one. I'm not quite sure how much. My scale is not easily accessible at the moment. And I might actually take this and run this through the drum carder one more time just to make it a little bit more smooth. But this one's a lot of fun. Pink and blue. So, whatever. All these weird oddball samples are going to be spun up and combined in ways that sort of make them enough for like a real thing. As you do. Makes me feel good. So, what's on my wheel at the moment, because it's mildly annoying to move things around, is, so this center pull ball that I'm pulling from the outside right now is about the halfway mark on my Wild Onion Bat Lemur spin. This I spun on my Bosworth. This I spun on my Lindrum. I'm playing it together on the Lindrum at the moment, and so far I'm actually super pleased. I can't really tell a difference right now between I can't really tell the difference between what I spindle spun and what I wheel spun, and I think that's great. And then we'll gently bring the wheel in. Not like that's. Let's rotate. I'm also sad because my wheel is like super filthy right now. Okay. Maybe. So, this is how it's playing together. So, I'm about halfway. It's been like a really fun spin. What would it be? Definitely would not have put purples and browns into fiber for supposed to be representing the sea, but I'm really loving how it's turning out. It's really fun when I get to those different spots. I tried to be as random as possible to maximize barber pulling. So the fiber was torn into all sorts of crazy strips, run through the diz like I normally do with a bat, and then just wound into little nests that I was pulling from my spinning project. Super glad to finish the spangles, super glad to be applying it now. Should be some really good yardage because it's taken a while to apply. Good for Stash Dash. So, not too crazy. Should be like a really fun yarn. It's, I think texture-wise it's turned out fairly well. As you do. Not too crazy. So, yeah. What would it be? So, that is all of the fiber content. No, that is just slightly terrifying at the moment. Let's see if I can make it work. Okay. I did sit down and sort of sort through the stash again, just to make things fit a little bit better, and for that I am glad. What would it be? So I ended up rejiggering the fibers so that I had one less bin of fiber, obviously with all the stuff I pulled out to spin immediately. That helped. Doesn't necessarily help for the, what is it, the sweater quality I forgot to include, but as you do. So this is, or would be, so it's fitting a little bit better. Would be, I'm going to be focusing, I think, a lot on spinning, and likely will be starting a hand spin project sometime during the summer when I finish one of the 2 other things I'm working on. But, so this is my cork block. It is something I got on Amazon. The one I ended up getting was Forbidden Road. And what I ended up doing is I put it lengthwise between my shoulder blades on the floor, and then I lean back and it opens up my chest. That is so good. So I'm actually gonna keep that out, and I'm gonna do a nice little lion on that when I'm done podcasting, because that's gonna be super nice. I also have like a foam roller that I can do more stuff with. This is just an Amazon Basics one, but not too crazy. And like sometimes, like if I feel like my back's a little crunchy, I'll just sort of roll on it. Any place where like has that stinging sore feeling, just sort of lie there still until it like releases and that sort of thing. So you can do that sort of with any stiff muscle where you're going around on places that aren't bone, finding the muscle that's a little bit stiff, and then putting pressure on it until it lets go. That can be really nice and sort of like a good maintenance sort of thing. Like your bone's never gonna release, so don't do it like it hurts. Bad idea. But the technical yoga, whatever, the Americanized, whatever, appropriated term for what I do with the cork block is called supported fish pose. And you can do it without a block, but it doesn't get the chest in the same way because the way you do the pose without a block is you sort of stick your elbows out underneath you, and then it doesn't quite get this open. Because I'm like, my massage therapist is very convinced that the reason why my pecs are so tight and sore it's because I'm hitting, spinning, looking down. So this is like a good antidote for what you're choosing to do with your body, and probably taking frequent breaks is a very good idea as well. So not too crazy. But like as this time of quarantine and shelter in place drags on, I sort of have to think about, okay, how can I do the things I used to do for myself at home? And I have all of my yoga accoutrements. I don't have a strap, but I can probably scavenge some rock climbing gear and have a strap anyways. But like, how do I do this for myself? So definite thing to think about, or would it be? Because like, it's not over. It's not going to be over for a while. We just have to be zen at peace with would it be that is going to keep going on. So that is my quarantine tip of the episode. And as you can tell, the light is creeping up my shirt, so we're gonna have to call it an episode this week, but dude, it was like 60 minutes anyway, so whatever. So with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. So take care, guys. Bye-bye.